Hey guys, we're back. It is Tuesday, and you guys are going to be reading page 342 to 346, so just a few pages. And I'm going to try to send you guys a link, a bunch of links to be able to play with the information a little bit more. So George Washington was our first ever president, and if you guys can think back to our last chapter, we know that there's three branches of the government in the United States: the judicial, the legislative, and the executive. And in the executive branch is the commander-in-chief, and our commander-in-chief now currently is President Trump. But our first commander-in-chief was George Washington, and the reason why they ended up calling him that was because that mainly is what he was. He was mainly a commander-in-chief of the Continental Army. So he was fighting on the front lines there, and then finally the war ended with the Treaty of Paris, is how our actual war ended between us and England. And after that, we really kind of decided, okay, what's our government system really going to look like? Now that we have complete freedom, what's it really going to look like? And some things that came out of that was the idea of a republic. So a republic means like a representative kind of government system. So you guys have probably heard that we have representatives for the state of Tennessee. So every state has representatives. We do not have a direct democracy. A direct democracy would mean that we would go vote, but our vote is really counted also through the Electoral College, and those are our representatives for voting. And we don't go to all the meetings and stuff like that and say, oh, this is what I think we should do. We have state representatives that does that for us. Federalism is the shared power between the federal government and the state government. So that's what we have here in America. That's why we have state representatives, and that's why we have state government and we have a national government. The state government adheres to the national government, and local governments adhere to the state government. Popular sovereignty, you have to think back to when we studied John Locke, but it's really this idea of people being consenting to be governed. The Bill of Rights is in the Constitution, and it just lays out all the things that you have a right of as a U.S. citizen. They did not just come up with this idea on their own. England did have they had the English Bill of Rights that protected people from the king, the peasants from the king in some sorts. So now we're moving on to the French Revolution. So we went through the American Revolution, now we're moving to the French Revolution. And the old regime really just means what the government was like before the French Revolution. If you keep going. So now you have to be able to think back to when we studied the feudal system in the medieval time period. They still have a feudal system at this point in France. So the first estate, which is the top, is the Roman Catholic Church. Now remember, we had that push and pull between who's going to be in charge. Is it going to be the king? Is it going to be the pope? Is it going to be the king? Is it going to be the pope? And it was back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. Well, right now in England, it's not the king at the top of the feudal system, it's the church. While before it was the king, now it's the church. Under that was the nobles, and then that was the second estate, and the third estate was the peasants, just like before. I think this is your last page here, and I'll go through some of the links I sent you. So you have to think back to when we studied about King Louis. So what we know from King Louis is he was not the most he wasn't a very good Catholic. He was a Catholic, but he was not a good Catholic. He lived a little bit of a wild lifestyle, if you guys can remember. So we know that he didn't have good choices with finances, that he ended up having a financial advisor. So he had to have help on that. So we know that, and if you think, so if you guys keep going to page 346. So if you know anything about socialism basically tries to make everybody equal. So it takes from the very rich and gives to the very poor out of the very rich. And so it kind of tries to equal out everybody. An American tax system right now, everybody's in their own tax bracket depending on what you make, and you take out kind of what you make. But in this system, it was flip-flopped, and the poorest of the poor had to pay the richest of the rich, which makes zero sense because they don't have any money to pay anybody anyway. And so they end up going into bankruptcy because of that. France does. So I think that's all you guys had to read for today. It was. So yesterday you did chapter activity 1, chapter 16 activity 1. Today you don't have any worksheet. Yesterday was chapter 16 activity 1. This one's not a worksheet. You're going to be able to look at a link to the Federalist paper written by Alexander Hamilton. There's a Bill of Rights. There's a Trump as a wartime president link. There's a Schoolhouse Rock video and a video on Star Wars, which you all will enjoy. So that's all. So you guys do have some more reading than just, today's the most amount of reading. So tomorrow will just be 2 pages in a worksheet. And then Thursday you got some reading, but it's not too bad. So today is probably, you guys have 7 pages to read altogether. That's counting your links. So you have 7 pages to read today and some videos to watch. So that's all you can, yeah, that's all. And then tomorrow you guys have like three pages to read in a worksheet. So hopefully you guys are getting to a little bit more of a routine of what you're used to, you know. Yeah, hopefully you're getting into a routine to be able to do your schoolwork. And so today's Tuesday, so tomorrow we'll meet on our Zoom meeting at 9 a.m. and we will pray during that period. So that way you're not sitting here watching me pray, even though I like praying over you all. I just love doing it with you guys. So we're going to do that one there. Alrighty. I'll see you guys tomorrow.